Hello, family. We're so glad to have you here with us, as always. Before we dive into today's gripping story, do us a quick favor, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a single update. We've made a promise to keep serving you fresh, powerful stories every day, and trust us, you won't want to miss any of them. Now, sit back and enjoy the ride. The rain had just started falling when Nena dropped her bowl of water and grabbed her side in pain. It wasn't labor. At least not the kind that ends in a hospital or celebration. She had been pregnant for a year and 6 months now, yet her stomach refused to shrink or bring forth a child. People had started whispering. At first, they said maybe she was carrying a prophet, or some strange miracle child. But as time passed, and her belly remained the same, the whispers turned to mockery. Her husband, Obinna, once a proud farmer with kind eyes, had grown quiet. He no longer followed her to the clinic or held her hand during the night cries. He just stared at her sometimes like he didn't know her anymore. They lived in a small compound in Obile village, just by the stream road. Every morning, women selling tomatoes and okra would greet her politely but avoid her gaze. And the children? They ran away from her like she was a masquerade. Nena didn't blame them. Even she was beginning to fear herself. Dr. Emenike had told them there was nothing medically wrong. Every test showed she was fine. The baby, or whatever it was still inside her, still moving sometimes. But it refused to come out. "You're carrying more than just a child," Mama Agogo, the oldest woman in the village, had said once during a prayer meeting. "There's something deeper, something beyond normal." Obinna didn't want to hear that. Enough of all these superstitions, he snapped that day. But his voice had cracked, and his eyes had betrayed fear. They had tried everything. Prayers, fasting, sacrifices, even that strange herbalist from across the river who took their goat and gave them a bottle filled with black oil. Nothing worked. One night, Nena sat outside under the moonlight, rubbing her belly, tears slipping down her cheeks. She whispered, "If you're in there, please, just come out. Let me hold you. Let me know you." Then she felt it. A sharp kick. Not like the gentle flutters she used to feel. This one was different. Strong. Angry. She stood quickly, heart racing. The wind began to blow, dry leaves spinning around her feet. The sky, already dark, grew even darker. Then came the voice. A voice so low, she almost thought she imagined it. "Wait for the time." She spun around. No one. Only the wind. Only the night. She didn't sleep that night. By morning, something had changed in the compound. Not just with her. But even the birds didn't sing. Obinna didn't leave for the farm. He just stood by the door, staring at her like he expected something to happen. And that was only the beginning. Do you think Nena is carrying something beyond human understanding? What do you think will happen next? The morning dragged like it was afraid of what would happen next. Nena sat by the fire, trying to cook yam porridge, but her hand was shaking too much to hold the spoon steady. Obinna hadn't said a word since he woke up. He just kept watching her like she was no longer his wife. Halfway through the cooking, the pot tilted slightly and some of the hot porridge splashed on her leg. She hissed and dropped the spoon. As she bent to wipe her leg, she felt it again. Another kick. But this one didn't stop. It was like something was turning inside her, twisting and stretching her skin from the inside. She froze, her heart pounding. The porridge didn't matter anymore. Obinna rushed to her side, his hands trembling as he held her shoulder. "Nena," he whispered. "Is it time?" She shook her head slowly, then nodded. "I don't know, but something is not right." They left the food on the fire and hurried to the local clinic. The nurse on duty, a young woman named Oluchi who had seen Nena too many times to count, rolled her eyes when she saw them. "You people again?" But one look at Nena's face wiped the sarcasm from her mouth. "She's in pain," Obinna said quickly. "Something is different this time." Oluchi called Dr. Emenike. He arrived 10 minutes later, still tying his wrapper and smelling of soap. He didn't ask many questions. just told Nena to lie down, then pressed around her stomach like he always did. But this time, his face changed. He touched the right side of her belly, then the left. Then he placed his stethoscope on her and leaned in, frowning. "There are 2 heartbeats," he said slowly. Obinna's mouth opened. "2 twins," the doctor said. "But that's not the only thing." He stood up straight, removed his gloves, and glanced at both of them. "I've never seen anything like this before. The babies, they're not just alive, they're extremely active. And from the movement I felt, they're much bigger than they should be." Nena sat up. "So what does it mean?" "I don't know," Dr. Emenike said honestly. "But one thing is sure, they're not ready to come out yet." Obinna stared at the floor. Nena was already crying. As they left the clinic, a group of women standing by the roadside watched her again. But this time, the look in their eyes had changed. It wasn't just pity anymore. It was fear. That night, Obinna locked all the windows. He sat on the floor, holding his cutlass close. Nena lay on the bed, whispering softly to her belly, her voice cracking. Outside, the wind started again. And deep inside her womb, the babies moved again, this time stronger than ever. As if they were awake and waiting. What exactly is inside Nena? What kind of children stay in the womb for so long? And why are they becoming more active now? The answers are still far, but something is coming. Something no one is ready for. 3 days passed. The wind hadn't stopped. It didn't roar or shout, it just moved, quietly, like someone pacing outside their compound, never too close but never far. Nena hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw flashes, 2 small figures standing inside a dark forest, looking straight at her. No smiles. No cries. Just silence. And then the sound of drums, faint, like they were coming from under the ground. She woke up sweating every single time. Obinna noticed the changes. Her eyes had darkened. Her voice had become softer, like she was speaking from a different place. Even the way she moved was strange, slower, like she was no longer living fully in her body. But it was her prayer that scared him the most. That night, he woke up and saw her kneeling by the window, her belly glowing faintly under the moonlight. She wasn't praying like before. She wasn't calling God's name. Instead, she was speaking in a language he had never heard before. It wasn't Igbo. It wasn't English. It was something else. "Nena," he whispered, his throat dry. She turned slowly, her eyes not fully her own. Then, like someone had pressed a switch, she blinked hard and shook her head, holding her chest. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I don't know what came over me." But Obinna had already stepped back. Fear had planted itself deep inside him. The next day, he went to see Mama Agogo. She was sitting under her mango tree, peeling bitter cola when he arrived. Her wrinkled eyes looked up and settled on him before he said a word. "You've come," she said. "Yes, Mama. I don't know who to talk to anymore." She nodded slowly, like she'd been waiting for him. "It's not her fault," she said softly. "And it's not yours either. What she carries, it chose her. From birth." Obinna's hands began to shake. "What is it? What chose her?" Mema Agogo pointed to the sky, then to the ground. "There are things between both realms. Children that are not born the way we know. They take time, and when they finally come, they don't belong to just one world." Obinna's heart dropped. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying, your wife is carrying a mystery. And when those twins come, the world will not remain the same again." He stood there, unsure if he should run, cry, or scream. "And if they don't come out soon?" he asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she picked a bitter cola, broke it in 2, and gave him half. "Go home," she said. "The time is near. But be careful. Others are watching now. Not just people, other forces." That evening, a strange woman came to the compound. She was tall, her hair tied in long braids that swept her waist. Her wrapper was green and gold. She didn't knock. She just stood by the entrance, staring at Nena through the window. When Obinna came out, she smiled faintly. "You don't know me," she said, "but I've known her long before now." Obinna's mouth dried up. "Who are you?" "I've come to wait," she replied, eyes still fixed on the window. "When the time comes, I'll be here." She turned and walked away before he could say another word. Who is the strange woman? Why is she watching Nena? And what exactly are these twins waiting for before they arrive? The air around the house is changing. And something is about to begin. The days felt like they were stretching, every hour heavier than the one before. The wind was relentless, howling through the night and bringing with it an unease that none of them could shake. Nena's body had become a strange map of bumps and twists. The twins inside her were growing, pushing against her skin in odd, unpredictable ways. Sometimes it felt like they were fighting each other, or maybe trying to break free. Obinna didn't know what to think anymore. He couldn't sleep. He kept hearing sounds, whispers, strange murmurs in the dark that seemed to come from inside the walls. When he tried to talk to Nena about it, she would only shake her head, her gaze distant. She wasn't the woman he married anymore. There was something in her eyes, something that scared him. That evening, as the sun set behind the distant hills, a storm started to gather. The clouds rolled in, dark and heavy. It wasn't unusual for storms to come this time of year, but this one felt different. There was a chill in the air, like something had shifted, and the sky was holding its breath. Obinna stood outside, watching the clouds grow thicker. The wind whipped through the trees, and the leaves rustled like they were whispering secrets. His hand tightened around the cutlass he always carried now. For the first time, he wondered if he needed it for more than just protection from wild animals. Inside the house, Nena was sitting in the corner, her back to him, whispering softly to herself. The words were foreign again, not the language of their people. He tried to ignore the dread that began creeping up his spine. She was too far gone. Too lost in whatever this was. Then, there was a knock. Obinna froze. He hadn't heard anyone approach. The villagers knew better than to come at night, especially with the storm approaching. He turned slowly, his heart thumping in his chest. The door creaked open, and there, standing in the doorway, was the woman from before. The one who had watched Nena through the window. "You?" Obinna growled, stepping forward. She didn't flinch. "It's time." Her voice was calm, like she had been waiting for this moment all her life. Nena stood up, her face pale, her hands shaking. "No, it's not time. I can't. I don't know what's happening to me." The woman stepped inside, her gaze never leaving Nena. "You've been carrying them too long," she said softly. "The earth has been patient, but it won't wait much longer. The twins are not just children. They're a bridge, a link. The time has come for them to cross." Obinna was confused. "A bridge? What are you talking about? What do you mean they're not just children?" The woman's eyes shifted to him, and for a brief moment, he felt like she was looking right through him, as though she could see all his fears and doubts. "Your wife's pregnancy is not like any other. These children are not meant to be born in the way humans understand. They are the beginning of something far larger. The world is about to change, and Nena, she has been chosen." Nena's breath hitched, and she took a step back. "Chosen? What does that mean? I didn't ask for this. I don't want this. Please, I just want my children." The woman smiled faintly. "You wanted your children, yes. But it's not just about wanting. This was always the way it was meant to be. Now, the time has come for them to arrive." As the last words left her mouth, the ground beneath them trembled. Obinna stumbled, his knees buckling. Nena grabbed onto the wall to steady herself, her face pale as death. Then, they heard it. A low, rumbling sound coming from deep within the earth. Obinna looked around, panic rising in his chest. "What is that? What's happening?" The woman didn't answer him. Instead, she turned to Nena. "It's the call. They are waking up. The earth is answering. Nena cried out, her hands clutching her stomach, as though the twins were trying to tear through her skin. The sound of the rumbling grew louder, shaking the walls of the house. And then, without warning, the lights flickered, and everything went still. Nena gasped, her eyes wide with terror. It's starting. They are coming. The woman nodded, stepping closer. Prepare yourself. Obinna stood frozen, unable to understand. The fear in Nena's eyes was real. This wasn't just childbirth. This wasn't just about bringing twins into the world. There was something much larger happening. Nena let out a cry of pain, and Obinna rushed to her side, trying to steady her. But even as the storm outside intensified, a new storm was forming inside their home. And nothing would be the same after tonight. The storm outside had become a violent roar, like the world itself was holding its breath. The house shook with every gust of wind, and the windows rattled. But inside, the air was still, thick with fear and confusion. Nena's cries echoed through the house, and Obinna's hands trembled as he held her, trying to comfort her. You have to calm down, he whispered, his voice barely audible over the storm. But his words felt hollow, useless. Nena's body was tense, her breathing shallow, and the pressure inside her belly was unbearable. The twins were moving again, but this time, it wasn't gentle. It was like they were clawing their way out, pushing against the walls of her womb. I can't do this, Nena gasped. I can't breathe. Something is wrong. The mysterious woman, who had been standing silently by the door, finally moved. Her eyes were fixed on Nena, her gaze steady and unflinching. She stepped forward, her movements graceful and deliberate. It's not about what you can do, the woman said, her voice calm yet filled with an unsettling power. It's about what is happening now. What must happen? Nena turned to her, her face twisted in pain. Please. I don't understand. What is happening to me? Why are they so strong? The woman didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached out and placed her hand gently on Nena's swollen belly. The air in the room seemed to shift, as though something had changed, something ancient. Nena gasped as a wave of warmth spread through her, and the pressure inside her body eased for a moment. The twins are not like any other children, the woman said softly. They are not human. Not entirely. Obinna's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean, not human? The woman looked at him now, her eyes almost glowing in the dim light. They are beings of another realm. They are the bridge, as I told you. Born of two worlds, this one and the one beyond. They were always meant to come, but they chose Nena for a reason. Obinna took a step back, his mind racing. A bridge? A connection between worlds? What does that mean? And why her? Why Nena? The woman's gaze softened, and she looked back at Nena. She was chosen before her birth. Her bloodline has been linked to this moment for generations. Her ancestors carried the mark, but it was always meant to end with her. The twins will be the ones to awaken what has long been dormant. Nena's eyes filled with confusion and fear. I didn't ask for this. I just wanted a family. I wanted a normal life. The woman shook her head. It was never about what you wanted. It was about what was always meant to be. And now, the time is here. The earth is already shifting, and when the twins are born, they will mark the beginning of a new era. A new world. Obinna felt a cold chill run through him. New world? What do you mean? What kind of new world? Before the woman could answer, the ground trembled again, this time stronger than before. The house groaned, and dust fell from the rafters. Nena screamed, clutching Obinna's arm as the pressure in her belly increased, and the rumbling from deep within the earth grew louder. It's happening, the woman said, her voice barely audible over the growing noise. They are coming. Prepare yourselves. Obinna felt his heart race. He looked at Nena, her face pale, her eyes wide with terror. He wanted to comfort her, to tell her everything would be okay, but the truth was, He didn't know if it would be. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the shaking stopped. Silence settled over the house, thick and suffocating. Nena collapsed into Obinna's arms, exhausted, her breath ragged. "What do I do now?" she whispered, her voice barely a breath. "What do I do if they are not like other children?" The woman stepped back, her expression unreadable. "You don't do anything. You wait. The twins will come when they are ready." Obinna swallowed hard, trying to wrap his mind around everything. "Wait? That's all we can do." The woman nodded. "That's all you can do. But remember, once they arrive, everything changes. The world will never be the same. Your lives will never be the same." Just as she finished speaking, the air in the room shifted again. The temperature dropped, and the lights flickered once more. Nena's belly tightened, and the sound of movement inside her grew louder. The twins were restless, fighting to be born, fighting to break free from the only world they had known. Outside, the storm howled even louder, as though echoing the chaos inside Nena's body. Something was coming, something that would shake the very foundation of everything. And in that moment, Obinna realized that nothing could prepare them for what was about to happen. The morning after the storm didn't feel like morning at all. The sky outside was gray, heavy, and the air hung with a silence that felt unnatural. Birds didn't chirp. Even the wind refused to move. Inside the house, Obinna sat on the edge of the bed watching Nena sleep. Her face was pale, her breathing shallow. Her body was tired, stretched beyond reason, but something deeper was wearing her down, something that wasn't just physical. He hadn't slept either. Not with the woman's words playing over and over in his head. "They are not human. They are the bridge." He turned his head slowly. The woman was still there, seated calmly in the corner of the room like she hadn't moved all night. Her eyes were open, fixed on Nena. There was no emotion on her face, only stillness. Obinna had tried to ask her questions through the night, but she never answered beyond what she'd already said. She only repeated one thing. "When they come, you'll understand." But understand what? Suddenly, Nena stirred. She let out a soft groan, then opened her eyes slowly. "Obinna," she whispered. He rushed to her side. "I'm here. I'm right here." She struggled to sit up. "I had a dream." No, it didn't feel like a dream. I was in a place I didn't recognize. There was fire. The ground was burning, but my feet weren't. I heard voices, strange voices. They were calling my name, but not with words. It was like they were calling from inside me. Obinna swallowed hard. "Nena, listen." "No," she said quickly. "That's not all. I saw them." Obinna stared at her. "The twins. I saw their faces." She looked down at her belly. They had eyes like fire. Not red, not yellow, just fire. But I wasn't afraid. I should have been, but I wasn't. One of them reached out and touched my face in the dream. I felt it. It was real. The mysterious woman stood now. She stepped forward slowly, her gaze steady. The dream was not a dream. They allowed you to see. They wanted you to know who they are. "Then why now?" Obinna asked, standing too. "Why would they show themselves now?" "Because time is running out," she replied. "They are no longer content being hidden. Their power is growing. The longer they remain inside her, the stronger they become, and the more unstable everything around them becomes. The world is reacting. You've seen it already. The storms. The silence. Even time will start to twist." Obinna stared at her, confused. "What are you talking about?" "Time," the woman said slowly, "will not move the same way anymore. You will see the sun rise and set in the same moment. You will feel days pass, but it will only be minutes. Things will stretch, then snap back. And when they are ready, the twins will come through not just this world, but every world at once." Obinna turned to Nena. "We have to leave. We can't stay here. We need help, real help." But Nena shook her head. "Obinna, Where would we go? Who will believe us? What doctor can fix what's inside me? Obinna clenched his jaw. He didn't know the answer, but he knew staying felt dangerous. Later that day, just as they were preparing to leave the house, a knock came at the door. Sharp, loud, unsettling. Obinna froze. Nena's eyes widened. Who could that be? Obinna moved slowly to the door and opened it a crack. A man stood there. He looked ordinary, wearing a brown shirt and jeans. But his eyes glowed faintly, like they had seen things he couldn't even imagine. I've come for her, the man said calmly. The woman carrying the twins. We don't have much time. Obinna stepped out quickly, blocking the doorway. Who are you? Who sent you? But the man didn't answer. Instead, he slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of cloth. When he opened it, Obinna's knees almost gave out. It was Nena's mother's headscarf, the one she had been buried in. Obinna's voice shook. Where did you get this? The man looked him dead in the eye. She gave it to me, he said. From the other side. And just like that, everything changed again. Obinna didn't know when his legs started moving backward, but he found himself dragging the door shut slowly, his eyes still locked on the man outside. She gave it to me, the man had said. From the other side. Obinna's palms were suddenly wet. His throat tightened. That scarf, it was buried with Mama Ijike. He had placed it on her chest himself before they covered the coffin. There was no mistaking the fabric. It had the same tiny red embroidery on the corner, her initials. EN. But now, here it was. Clean. Untouched. As if it had never touched the soil. Behind him, Nena called out. Obinna, what is it? Who is it? He didn't answer immediately. He was still staring at the door, his heart banging like a drum. The man outside didn't knock again. He just stood there, waiting. When Obinna finally spoke, his voice was low. He said Mama gave him your scarf. Nena's breath caught. She stood slowly, holding her stomach with both hands. What does he want? Obinna turned to her, unsure what to say. He said, he came for you. For me? Her voice trembled. No, I'm not going anywhere with anyone. They both turned to the woman in the corner, still there, still silent. But for the first time since she arrived, she looked concerned. Her voice came out in a whisper. If he carries the mark of the grave, then he's not from this side. He is a caller. Obinna frowned. What's that supposed to mean? A messenger, she said, slowly standing. One who travels between this world and what lies beyond. If he says she gave it to him, then it means the door is already open. What door? Nena asked. The one between the living and the forgotten. Before they could say another word, the power in the house went out. The fan stopped spinning. The silence that followed felt alive, like the house was holding its breath. Then a voice echoed from the door, not loud, not angry, just calm and steady. You're running out of time. The woman turned to Nena. You have to choose. Choose what? Nena asked, her voice shaky. Do you want to know the truth, or do you want to hide? Obinna turned to his wife. We can leave right now. I'll take you far away from all this. But Nena didn't answer him. Her eyes were fixed on the door. She was trembling, but not out of fear. It was something else. Something strange was building inside her, like her body was waking up from something heavy. Then she said something no one expected. I've seen him before. Obinna and the strange woman froze. Nena's voice dropped. In the fire dream. He was standing near the twins, but he didn't touch them. He just watched, and he cried. He was the only one who cried. The woman's face dropped. Then it has begun. What has begun? Obinna shouted. What is going on? Before anyone could respond, there was a knock again, but this time, not on the front door. It came from inside the house. They all turned at once. The knock repeated. Slow. Hollow. It was coming from the room at the back, the room where Nena's mother used to sleep before she died. Obinna moved instinctively to block Nena, but she pushed past him. She walked toward the room slowly, as if something beyond her was pulling her there. Nena, stop, Obinna whispered. But she didn't. She opened the door gently. The room was dark, cold. But in the middle of the room stood a small girl. No older than 10. Her feet didn't touch the ground. Her face was gentle, her eyes glowing with soft light. Obinna stood frozen. Nena stepped forward. Who are you? The girl tilted her head. I'm the first. They call me Ogadinma. Obinna's lips trembled. The first what? The girl didn't blink. The first gate. And soon, your twins will be the last. She reached out and placed a glowing hand on Nena's belly. You're almost ready, mother. But are you willing? Then the girl disappeared into the air like smoke. Nena fell to her knees. She wasn't crying. She wasn't in pain. But her body couldn't hold the moment. Obinna rushed to her and held her tightly. But nothing could stop what had already begun. Now, the question wasn't just who the twins were, but why the world was rearranging itself just for their birth. The house didn't feel the same anymore. Since the girl disappeared, silence had spread like cold water over everything. Nena sat on the floor, her back against the wall, her hands still resting on her belly. Her heart wasn't just beating, it was echoing. Obinna paced the room like a trapped animal. The woman who hadn't given her name was sitting again in the same quiet corner, watching them with eyes that no longer looked human. There was something about the way she blinked, too slow, too deliberate. Nena, Obinna whispered, kneeling beside her. You need to talk to me. What did she mean by you being almost ready? Ready for what? Nena stared at nothing. Then finally, she said in a small voice, I think these babies aren't just babies. Obinna flinched. What does that even mean? She turned to him, eyes wet. You saw her, didn't you? The girl. She wasn't a dream. She touched me, Obinna. I felt it. My whole body went warm. And when she said I was almost ready, something inside me moved. I felt them. I felt the twins move again. But not like before. This time it was different. Obinna swallowed hard. You've been pregnant for 7 years, Nena. 7 years. That's not ordinary. That's not something we can explain with sense anymore. I'm scared, she said quietly. Obinna took her hand. Me too. But I'm not leaving you. The woman in the corner spoke, her voice suddenly cold. You should have left when the door was still open. Both of them turned. What do you mean? Obinna asked. There are seasons for every womb, she said. And seasons for silence. Yours passed a long time ago. Now something else has entered. What entered? Nena asked. She stood. You won't understand now. But when the blood rain falls, and your children speak in voices no one has heard before, you will remember this moment. Before either of them could speak again, the woman walked to the door and opened it. Night had fallen. The darkness outside looked strange, thicker. She didn't say goodbye. She just walked out and vanished into the dark. Obinna locked the door immediately. Who was she? Nena whispered. I don't know. But I don't think she came to hurt you. That night, Nena couldn't sleep. She kept waking up. Each time she opened her eyes, she thought she saw a shadow standing in the corner. Silent. Watching. It never moved. But it was always there. Around midnight, the room became very cold. Then her back started burning. She sat up quickly. Obinna was still asleep beside her. She tiptoed into the bathroom and looked at her back in the mirror. There were 3 faint marks on her skin. They looked like fingerprints, but not human ones. They glowed faintly, like embers. She didn't scream. She just sat on the floor and cried. By morning, the marks were gone. But her dreams that night? They were nothing like before. She had seen 2 children. A boy and a girl. They were not babies. They looked about 8 years old, standing in a forest made of red trees. The boy looked at her and said, "We are coming through the long path. Don't let the watchers close the gate." Then the girl added, "If the gate shuts before the 91st moon, we'll be trapped." Nena had tried to speak, but no words came out. She just watched as the twins turned and walked deeper into the forest, hand in hand. When she woke up, she knew something for sure. She didn't have much time left. And someone, was already trying to stop them from being born. But why? Why were these children so important? Why did they need her alive for exactly 90 months, and not a day more? And most importantly, what happens after they come? Hey viewers, are you still with me? Because the real story hasn't even started. Kindly tell us where you are watching from and the time your watch says right now in the comment section. Part 2 will drop upon requests, so let the requests come in. We love you.